is a creature from myth and legend. It is described as having the head of a goat, but the tail of a fish. The horned goat has appeared in the mythology of many cultures through the years, most notably in ancient Greek, Latin, Egyptian, and other Eastern myths. Unlike some other seafaring creatures from myth and legend, the sea goat lives more as a metaphorical entity rather than being involved in many historical encounters. It is clear from the start that this being does not exist, but represents an idea. In Greek mythology, the sea goat appears in many forms. They are varying interpretations of the myth within ancient Greek lore, and the majority of this relate to the constellation Capricornus. Capricornus was seen as a sea goat. One of these tales is that Amalthea, the foster mother goat of Zeus, was sent to live in the sky among the stars as a reward for raising him from a child. Pyrrhus was one of the most significant sea goats in Greek mythology. It is said that Pyrrhus was the head of a race of sea goats. Cronus was the creator of Pyrrhus and a group of half-goat, half-fish creatures. He gave them human-like abilities to communicate and conjure thoughts. However, their nature was to be on land. Many failed attempts to prevent his race from existing on land. Pyrrhus was the only sea goat left in the water. This situation made him plead with his creator, Cronus, to end his life. However, Cronus let him live in the stars. Pan was known as the god of the wilderness. In a classic tale of the battle between Zeus and Typhoon, Zeus attempts to escape to the river. He tries to turn into a fish, but not succeeding, he became half fish. After being forced into confrontation, Zeus is victorious, loses his leg muscles to restore his full body, and is consequently sent to live in the stars as a reward for his health. The notion of the sea goat appears again in the form of Echbin, a mythological being that was similar in stature to Pan. Echbin was said to be the son of Zeus. He had the typical features of the sea goat, bottom half of a fish, along with the top half of a goat. In ancient Mesopotamia, Capricornus was referred to as Hermes, which translates as goat fish. The ancient Sumerian god Enki is often intertwined with Capricornus, as Enki symbolized flowing water, the goat, and the bird. The sea god appears in Judaic history through storytelling. In a traditional Jewish tale, the Leviathan demands that all sea creatures must be offered to it. Creatures had to travel far and wide to do this, with the sea goat being one of this. The image of the constellation of Capricorn, which is usually more visible in the southern sky, the Capricorn sign of the zodiac follows in the same image, portraying that of a goat and fish combined. Many of the origin stories of how the constellation of Capricorn formed are largely tied to gods being sent to the sky by Zeus. We see this with Pan, Pyrrhus, and Amalthea. The star systems Beta Capricorni and Delta Capricorni, situated 329 and 38 light years from the Earth, respectively, reside within the constellation of Capricorn. These systems include many bright stars such as the Bee, which, with the name Algety, is one of the brightest stars in the constellation. And now I'll read you another story of Capricorn. Capricorn, the sea goat. Once upon a time, in the ancient lands of Greece, long before goats roamed the Grecian hills and grazed on their sweet grasses, there lived the great Pyrrhus, the sea goat. Pyrrhus had many children, many years of teaching and taking care of his fellow sea goats. and could move together in harmony. The three of them went everywhere along. Not only were they a sight to see, but they were also quite a song to hear. Now, Brigus was created by the Greek god of time, Cronus, who needed a magnificent creature to help him on his journey with a high clock. Once Brigus was born, Cronus made him immortal so that the goat could live forever. Forever he lived among his children in the vast Mediterranean Sea and oceans beyond it. Sea goats were fascinating creatures that loved the deep waters. They could swim freely and even practice their clumping and stomping on the rocks underwater. Sea goats were unique creatures. At the front, they look like goats as we know them, but at the back, they look like fish. Beyond having so many children, of which you rarely saw anyone that often, Brigus was kept busy with telling stories, teaching history, and helping those in need. Being honorable as half-goat, half-fish creature was, however, Brigus made sure to educate all his children about the importance of cooperation with all other living things in the ocean. News around the ocean's animal kingdom and amongst many of his seagull children had spread quickly about him, El, and Thea. Father of all sea goats, Brigus grew to know his set of playful sea goat triplets. Their song sounded so lovely on the water and began to attract all of Brigus' children. Along with them and some other sea creatures, he followed their song to where the triplets spent most of their time together, splashing in coordination in the shallower parts of the seafloor. On an unusually cloudy day, M, Al, and Thea were playing in a small coral reef. As the sun shone through a small opening in the clouds, its rays caught the glimmer of a small piece of coral floating towards shore. The triplets saw this and in agreement, half swam, half galloped to follow it. Just as the triplets were approaching the shore, Brigus and others began arriving. M, Al, and Thea followed the rhythm of each other's hooves and started to pull themselves out of the water. Clop, clop, clap, 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 clop, clop, clap. Other seagull children heard these sounds, and by now, the sun was shining exceptionally bright. Brigus and the rest of his children could see the triplets begin to bask in the sun's glorious rays, moving their hooves back and forth to a particular beat. The other sea goats saw this and half swam, half trotted to shore too. From memory, they followed the triplets' rhythm. As Brigus could tell, the longer his sea goat children sat on a rocky shore, the stranger their magnificent fish tails began to look. Mirroring their front legs, many of the sea goats were now growing new back legs with hooves on them. Brigus was devastated as he could foresee all his children losing their beautiful tails that helped them swim the deep ocean. So, he searched his brain and remembered a long and complicated ability Cronus had given him at birth, the ability to reverse time. Brigus moved aside and waited as time began to shift. His children turned back into sea goats, the clouds come out again, and the triplets went back to making their song in the ocean. None of the other creatures of the sea remembered a thing. Brigus, with his great abilities, was the only sea goat to commemorate the event. However, time passed, and Brigus stumbled upon the triplets, each with 4 hooves once more. They were clamoring their new songs on land, attracting all his sea goat children to follow in their hoof steps. Again, Brigus used his ability to reverse time. Brigus spent ages reversing time and living through countless scenes of the triplets understood Cronus' journey with the great clock, as he saw his children on the shore running around, clapping and clapping. L, and Thea were already scaling hills, rocky mounts with ease. Their playful harmony was beautiful. Brigus stopped reversing time. He stayed near the shallow waters of the Grecian shores until he no longer could see his children running in circles or chasing each other's hoofprints in the sand. They had moved to the higher ground. As they walked away, Brigus filled with a sense of immense sadness. He rarely visited Cronus in the flesh, but due to his grief, Brigus met with him. He asked him to turn him into a mortal to live out the rest of his days near the shore in mourning. I cannot bear a life away from my children's songs, Brigus said. Cronus had been observing. His sympathy for Brigus was great, but his love for Brigus' abilities to teach and guide others was just as great. So, Cronus refused Brigus' request. He granted him a great gift of even greater permanent status. Brigus became the stars in the sky. The constellation Capricorn is where Brigus is now. He glimmers through the night sky, through the clouds, gazing at his children on their higher ground and listening to their sweet